Make no mistake about it, the most consequential, intriguing, and entertaining quarterback battle in the Big Ten football 2024 preseason is in Columbus, Ohio. And it is between Devin Brown and incoming transfer Will Howard. Ohio State's quarterback room is loaded with star talent this season. They are not spoiled with a Justin Fields, CJ Stroud, or rest in peace to Dwayne Haskins type of talent. But they do have a 5-star in Julian Sayin and high-level 4-stars in Lincoln Keenholz, Devin Brown, and incoming true freshman Aaron Noland on their quarterback roster. Only one of those hyper-talented players in Devin Brown, who has the most experience, will be competing with incoming transfer from Kansas State football, Will Howard, who had a hand in Kansas State winning the Big 12 in 2022 and fielding a team that beat TCU, gave TCU only their second loss of the season. The other was that 58-point loss to Georgia that no one likes to talk about in the national championship. And Howard was also instrumental in bringing Kansas State to their 9-4 season just last year in 2023. Ohio State is bringing plenty of key players back from that 2023 season, a season where if they just beat Michigan, given how they played the rest of the year, a team that I watched and a team that I studied, they beat Michigan, they go on to win the national championship and not the Michigan Wolverines. That game, the game last year, determined who won the national championship. And while that may not exactly be the case this coming season with the 12-team playoff, the Ohio State Buckeyes need a quarterback who is gutsy enough, who is accurate enough to face and beat a team like last year's Michigan team, like this year's Michigan team, with confidence. Same with teams such as Oregon, who they will play on the road, Penn State, who they will play on the road, and the Alabamas and Georgias and Texases of the world in the SEC. Marvin Harrison Jr. leaves, obviously, for the NFL, but Emeka Egbuka returns, and Carnell Tate and Brandon Inniss and other wide receivers are just waiting to blossom and come through and perform. Most of the offensive line returns. Quinshon Judkins transfers in at running back to serve alongside of Travion Henderson, and most of the defense outside of Michael Hall Jr., Tommy Eichenberg, Steele Chambers, and Josh Proctor return. What I'm saying in a mouthful is this quarterback position could be the deal breaker between a great season that once again falls short of expectations or a national championship season. And that's what makes this quarterback battle important. Welcome back, fellow football fanatics, Ohio State fans, Michigan fans, Penn State fans, Big Ten fans, and college football fans from across the country. It's College Football with Sam, the best Big Ten football channel on YouTube. Give me a sub if you haven't already. Just click that red subscribe button to show your support for whether it's Ohio State, Nebraska, or just this channel. Or if you want to pretend the red subscribe button is blue for Go Blue, doesn't really matter. Just shows us support. And click the notification bell so that you can get notified when I release more college football content. Like this video and comment your thoughts on this quarterback battle down below to help boost this channel and this video into the algorithm so we can reach more people. Your support means the absolute world to me, and if you want to do more than just support on YouTube, which I already appreciate as is, you can check out my Patreon page via the link in the description or the pinned comment. You'll be rewarded if you are an All-American or Heisman member, which is $10 or $25 a month, with occasional bonus content. I can't promise more than that, even though I am trying to increase my production load on both Patreon, but more importantly, YouTube. No matter what, though, you'll be featured at the beginning and end of every video with, of course, special placement and thanks. It's the same thing if you do a super chat in the comments. I prioritize replying to those comments and also shouting those out who support me on here. Thank you very much, though, and I want to give a special thanks to Crash2488 for being a Heisman member, Spencer Bringhurst, Chris Lane, and SFS Inverted for being All-American members, and Will Loftus, Gabriel Calendar, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, Zubin Zah, and Janisha Cockrell for being all-conference members. If you want to support the channel in a different way, you can purchase on my merchandise page via the link in the description, or the pinned comment. But I think what's most important is just engaging with this community, with the college football community, and enjoying college football content in this preseason. And something to enjoy really are these position battles, something that I want to cover more as this preseason goes on, and something that I really just thought of only the past few days. But I'm trying to include my workload, and the more content I produce, the easier it is to cover these different position battles. And one of the most intriguing of those is the quarterback battle at Ohio State. You look all around, and whether it's Oregon, who will likely start Dylan Gabriel, USC, who will likely start Miller Moss, you look at Penn State, and it's Drew Aller's job, most likely. You look at, even Northwestern, I forget exactly who their quarterback's name is, but with their departure of previous quarterback Ben Bryant, former Cincinnati transfer, I think Brendan Sullivan is his name. I think he's lined up to start there. At Minnesota, they brought in a transfer. Tyler Van Dyke will likely start at Wisconsin. At Illinois, you have Luke Altmaier. Nebraska, it's likely going to be Dylan Raiola. At least he should start over the atrocious Heinrich Harburg. At Ohio State, it's different, though. And Michigan does have a quarterback battle between Alex Orji and Jaden Denegal, but I would say both Will Howard and Devin Brown are better than those two as quarterbacks. And maybe there are other schools that I've left out, whether it's Maryland in their quarterback battle or Ethan Kaliakmanis versus Gavin Wimsatt, in which I think Gavin Wimsatt will win that competition by a mile. Could be wrong there. This is the most intriguing, and it features the best players, two individual best players out of any quarterback duo competition. Will Howard right now is the favorite, so I want to start by talking about him. He's widely expected to be the starting quarterback for Ohio State in the fall, and that's because he has 27 career starts, and he's had success at Kansas State. Kansas State is a hard place to win. There's a reason why only Bill Snyder has won there, along with Chris Kleiman, who was a winner at North Dakota State in the FCS. Whether it's Skylar Thompson, whether it is Adrian Martinez, whether it's Will Howard, or Avery Johnson, that the latter player, Avery Johnson, being one of the primary reasons Will Howard left, because he was getting shared playing time. Avery Johnson was a highly recruited 4-star out of high school, and he had a chance to beat out Will Howard in this upcoming quarterback battle for the 2024 season for Kansas State in the Big 12. Will Howard wanted to go somewhere different, and I say it that way instead of saying that he wanted to increase his draft stock or he wanted to, upgrade, even though Ohio State is an upgrade, because it was pretty clear that Avery Johnson was playing more as the season went on. He helped win Kansas State their 9th win in their bowl game against North Carolina State, where Johnson went 14 of 31 for 2 touchdowns. He ran for 71 yards and a touchdown. He's just more athletic and has a higher ceiling than Will Howard does. Now, Will Howard is a good quarterback. He was top 25 in QBR, had over 20 passing touchdowns, over 2,000 passing yards, and that was sharing playing time and being in a system with Kansas State where they're not throwing the ball everywhere, like across the field, vertically, horizontally. They like to run the ball, use their trench play solid defense. It's just the Chris Kleeman way. It honestly reminds me of Iowa, Wisconsin, and by Wisconsin I really mean like Paul Chryst, Wisconsin, with better coordination on offense. I wonder how Kansas State will perform next season, this season rather, without Colin Klein. But that's a story and perhaps a video if I want to cover Kansas State for a different day. What I'm saying is Will Howard got sort of pushed out of Kansas State. He's come to Ohio State, and while he's facing competition, he does have the experience edge. He is more proven than anyone else in Ohio State's quarterback room. Last season, he had 2,643 passing yards, 24 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, a 75.1 QBR, and a 140.1 passer rating. In 2022, He had 1,633 passing yards, but he averaged nearly a yard extra per pass attempt. He had 15 passing touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and a 149.6 passer rating. His passer rating was over 150 for much of the season. It just got brought down by a bad game against Alabama in the Sugar Bowl in 2022, where Bryce Young and that team just absolutely wrecked Kansas State and Deuce Vaughn. But, for example, against TCU, against Oklahoma State, against West Virginia, Kansas, and Baylor that year, he had 5 consecutive games with a 150 passer rating or better, and he had 4 consecutive games with an 80 quarterback efficiency rating or better. Really good quarterback, has shown an ability to scramble, as he had 351 rushing yards, 9 rushing touchdowns with a long scramble of 70 this year against Oklahoma State, which was a loss and one of Will Howard's worst games. He has inconsistencies. He's not a super accurate quarterback, but he does have a cannon for an arm. He's gutsy, he's experienced, he's a veteran, and he's tough as well. He can take a hit, he can give a hit, he can truck guys, and he has underrated speed and elusiveness for a quarterback of his size. Will Howard is a big guy. 6'5", 242 pounds. That's almost a foot above average height, closer to a foot than, like, let's say half a foot. 242 pounds. I'm 6'2", I think 190 for context. Is 50 pounds heavier than me, 3 inches taller. Most of that extra 50 pounds is probably muscle. Big guy. And he does have a high ceiling. And a big arm, as I've already mentioned. I think that I don't exactly know entirely what to think, because Ohio State hasn't had a quarterback like him before. Kyle McCord didn't have the mobility, he didn't have the arm strength, but McCord was a more accurate passer. CJ Stroud was just better in every way. I think Stroud was more athletic than Will Howard. Stroud had a higher ceiling. Stroud was more accurate. Stroud had good arm strength. Stroud was the perfect passing quarterback. And then he had Justin Fields, who wasn't as good of a passer, but was extremely athletic and was better, again, in every way, I think, compared to Will Howard. Devin Brown, I think, is a similar story to Will Howard. You have the high ceiling. You have the massive arm. He's willing to take risks. We've seen that in his limited play. But he isn't proven like Will Howard, and you do have some concerns about accuracy and him taking risks. Like that one time, it was either against Youngstown State or Western Kentucky. I forget which. But he scrambled and he let himself take a big hit. Or he's thrown some risky passes in those games where he got his most passing attempts all season long. He didn't look good against Missouri before he got injured, for example. And there are a variety of factors for that, like in the Missouri game, the offensive line, or Ohio State's offense, period, including the O-line not playing well in the first half of the season whatsoever. But Ohio State is in unfamiliar territory. I would say much like last regular season. And I thought that entering 2023, Ohio State, while they would have a drop-off in quarterback play, and while I thought that Kyle McCord would be the worst quarterback under Ryan Day, since Stroud and Fields, and including Haskins as well, since Day coached him, I thought that comparison was a little unfair because those were elite college quarterbacks. And as long as Kyle McCord was great, that would be awesome, and the offense would continue to flourish. And that's not what happened. Kyle McCord was a good quarterback, maybe a great quarterback. He was efficient given his supporting cast, I think, but he wasn't as good as I thought he was. And he did not live up to, I would say, a fair standard and fair expectations for what playing at quarterback means under Ryan Day and at Ohio State. And with Devin Brown losing that job to Kyle McCord last year, I think Devin Brown understands it. I think that even Ohio State fans and players know it. There are some doubts there. And if you're Devin Brown, what you have to do, and I think he's doing it, is he's harnessing that. And he's improving. He's competing right now. I've heard that he's running with the ones in camp. That's because he just has the experience edge. But doubt can fuel you. That's what I was trying to say just a few seconds ago, is doubt can fuel you. Now, that doesn't always mean that, when you have a lot of doubters or something like that, that you come out on top. But it is an extra motivating factor. And this quarterback room, as much as Will Howard could be an improvement over Kyle McCord, that's not a guarantee. But Devin Brown was recruited highly out of high school. There's a reason for that. He's athletic. He has a lot of similarities to Will Howard, except I think that he has a higher ceiling. And he has more experience in the Ohio State system, in the culture, more player chemistry. 217 passing yards last year, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception, an 11.5 QBR, very low, but again, very small sample size. You can't take much from that. And a 138.7 passer rating. What you can take away from Devin Brown is, outside of just outside of not much, really, what you can take away from him is how I think that he's handled this competition, how he's handled Ryan Day and his staff bringing in a transfer quarterback. Devin Brown isn't transferred away. He's taking this competition very seriously. And the staff has faith in him. The fact that he's running with the ones right now, even if it is likely temporary, because there are reasons why Will Howard's favored to start, shows that he has competency. He's competent at his position. And last year, he didn't live up to some people's expectations. Granted, Ohio State's quarterback room as a whole really didn't. The Cotton Bowl was the epitome of that. The game against Michigan, where Ohio State's defense played better than I expected overall, outside of the final 7-minute drive, but the quarterback play was just objectively bad, had its ups and plenty of its downs. That was the epitome of a year where the offense was just hampered by inconsistencies at quarterback, on the offensive line, and Ryan Day, not just in big games like we've seen in 21 and 22, but in most games last year, not being a great play caller, despite the fact that we know he has the capability of being an elite play caller. It's why he's delegated responsibility to Chip Kelly. I do actually, just for a public service announcement, think that he called a very good game against Michigan last year, given the personnel he had. The difference in last year's edition of the game compared to prior versions, 21 and 22, is that Michigan actually had the much higher ceiling and the better team, full stop, at almost every position except for safety and wide receiver. Where in prior years, Ohio State probably had the higher ceiling. Their staff was just horrifically mismanaging the team. But when it comes to winning games and even winning competitions and why did X player start over Y player, it's multiple angles. I wouldn't be shocked if Devin Brown won the starting quarterback job, but I do think it is likely going to be Will Howard's job. And I think the multiple angles for that are the fact that he has the experience edge. I think that Will Howard doesn't have the same injury concerns. Will Howard actually stepped in for an injured Adrian Martinez in 2022, and that really helped propel him to the state that he is at now. Devin Brown has dealt with some injuries last season, and I think he had an injury in the 2023 preseason camp. In fact, I remember pretty clearly that he did. Experience edge, more starts, he's older, he's played in a good system. Colin Klein at Kansas State. He's a leader, and he does have athleticism and a high ceiling, much like Devin Brown. So I think from multiple angles, you should expect Will Howard to be the starting quarterback, but don't be surprised if Devin Brown is able to pull what would be an upset and win this job. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Again, thanks to Crash2488, Spencer Bringhurst, Chris Lane, SFS Inverted, Will Loftus, Gabriel Calendar, Roaming Gnome, Matthew Sale, Austin Christmas, Zubin Zah, and Janisha Cockrell for being Patreon members, with a special thanks to Crash2488 for being a Heisman member, and Spencer Bringhurst, Chris Lane, and SFS Nerd for being All-American members. This list updates weekly for those who are joining, and if memberships expire, if you cancel yours, your name will be removed at the end of every month. Make sure to follow the channel if you're listening on Spotify, and have a great day. I'll see you soon.